Welcome to the Regenaissance. Have you ever heard that word before? Where? Great. It's the regenerative renaissance. What's more beautiful? If any of you have heard Paul talk in the past, he talks about the Renaissance all the time. I need a new Renaissance, and we do. We need the Regenaissance. This book that I wrote is called Homo Universalis, the Regenaissance, and it's really regenerative living for a symbiotic planet. And I'll give anybody who wants a copy here today. And I would really appreciate you taking Paul's advice and reading the book at your own pace. But it's not here about the book. It's about what the book really helps us to remember. I want you all to do a social experiment with me. I want you to close your eyes, and this is the only thing I will do. And I want you to imagine your home. I want you to think what it feels and looks like. And when the vision of your home, how you decorate it, comes in your mind's eye, I want you to open your eyes. How many of you saw this image? So 7, that's a big problem. That is a huge problem. Because is this not our home? Yeah. There's 8 billion of us on this planet, 8 plus billion. Last year, I asked 500 million people that question, and less than 0.0001% raised their hand. If you're in your home, if you have a big home or an apartment, you don't say, my closet is on fire. You say, my home's on fire. Even if a bedroom's on fire, you don't say, my bedroom's on fire. You say, my home's on fire. There's many reasons why we don't see this as our home is because we all live different ways. We all have different versions of how we decorate our home. Home means different things. Some of us might have thought of our children, our cats, our pets, the smells that we made for breakfast. This is our common home. And I want to go a step further. How many of you were dropped off on spaceship Liechtenstein, Germany, Poland, Russia, America onto this planet? Anybody? You come from another place? From the stars? That's a trick question. You know why? All of us crawled out of the primordial soup of this earth, and all of us are stardust. We have more than 90% of the same elements of our earth, that our earth is made up of star stuff, as we do in our bodies. So not only is this our home, but we're going to talk about what does a world that works for everyone look like for you, and how we actually need to realize that we crawled out of this earth. We are the earth. We are star stuff.
To begin, we have to go back in time. The first generation, shelter and survival, is the beginning of the pre-electric tree bearing is bent gravity into grace. And then came the age of electricity, where we discovered stars. It's the fourth generation, sustainable, but still incomplete.
Thing that I speak about has to do with regeneration. Many of you have heard me in the past talk about the sustainable development goals and a lot about sustainability probably, and a little bit of regenerative practices through farming and different things like that. We're going to Davos not only to launch the book and give the book out and be with Paul and great speakers who are doing regenerative processes, like the chief architect and builder and developer of Ava and their projects is here, Alex, and he's a regenerative builder. If you've been to Dubai, it's a concrete jungle and probably one of the worst places, in my opinion. Been there many times, but in a space like that, Alex's buildings, you have the things that make life regenerative. Instead of zooming out about 1,000 feet and looking down at those buildings, and you just see nothing but coffins, concrete coffins or headstones of where we live life on earth. It's not regenerative the way we live. And so that's a big thing. Sustainable development goals end in 2030. But sustainability is not sustainable. And that's why we need a global regenerative development alliance, which we've created with architects, engineers, builders, financiers around the world that are financing and building that regenerative future with regenerative economics. Because they've started to ask this 70-plus-year-old question that we have: what does a world that works for everyone look like for you? And that is what regenerative development does. It gives everybody the basic needs. Sustainability is not sustainable, but what Chad Frischman didn't say, it's just the basics of life. It's what we call the bottom layers of Maslow's pyramid. And why you kind of wondering why I'm changing to regeneration now and not talking about sustainability? If the sustainable development goals are just the basics of life: breathing, food, water, sleep, infrastructure, security of body, security at home, resources, and then that ascendance, we're calling just the basics a set of goals, and then we're not even achieving that. Do you understand what I just said? We're calling sustainable developments or sustainability a goal. It's just the basics of life. Why would you want to set such a low bar and then not even achieve it? There are three principles of sustainability. Most people don't know them. It's economics, it's innovations, impact innovations for purpose, and it's the futures, having that vision of the futures. Most people thought that I would say the three principles of sustainability are people, planet, and profit, but that's the triple bottom line. And there's a reason why I have it in red, is because it can be greenwashed. It can be done only as a single bottom line accounting principle, only concerned about profit and not really focusing in on people and the planet. John Elkington wrote those goals 35 years ago today, and he recalled them in 2018. And I've heard companies around the world and in Liechtenstein that have had those in their annual report just last week. As they're going to Davos, they're talking about their new year: people, planet, profit. The new triple bottom line, when you recall something, you put something new out, is responsibility, resilience, and regeneration. And the reason they're green is because they're ungreenwashable. In few moments, if you don't have responsibility, you realize that your business is not regenerative. You don't have any resilience when hard times come, and you don't have any regeneration. I used to teach for many years this work-life balance. I want you to know it is pure bullshit. It doesn't exist. If you are one person in life and a different person in your work life, you're probably schizophrenic, bipolar, on the verge of burnout, because you can't be two people at the same time. You can't have this work life go great and your personal life go great and think they're all going to be in the same direction. They're in the opposite directions. We are not in the business of business. We are in the business of life. There is only life, and it's a regenerative evolution of life. We are on this developmental evolution of how we live life on Earth. I want you to think about yourself, life in general. It's evolving and moving exponentially every second of the day, every moment. Trillions of operations and exponential processes are moving forward exponentially. Our world is changing every single moment exponentially, and we are only improving incrementally. And when you do that, or if you only do incremental improvements, you will fall behind exponentially. We're going to take a quantum leap to the Regenaissance. And I told you the second principle was economics. These are all the bad classical economic models. They compete against each other. You can't give them redundancy and do 5 of them at the same time. But I know you all know at least 5 ecological economic models out there. And I'm not going to make you guess, but there's more than 32. Donut economics, circular economy, the SDGs are an ecological economic model. Buddhist economics, feminist economics, well-being economics, donut economics. There's so many more, and I know you've heard many of them. The reason they're in green: you can do one or you can do them all. They do not compete against each other.
Cells work together on different web of communication, which in turn forms matter. Cells get together, take on one form, B form, 3 form, makes no difference. It's all the same. Humans consider themselves unit associates in their whole theory of disciplines on as you. One is their unit of measure, but it's not. All social systems we put into place are a mere sketch.
In all life, living systems and their subsystems, ecology, biology. 1 plus 1 never, ever, ever equals 2. It's always a super exponential and sometimes verges on quantum tunneling. Now, this is something that Paul probably knows on how mushrooms and mycelium and things grow exponentially because they're a living system. And I want you to know you're a living system as well. That's called symbiosis. And symbiosis is an ecological phenomenon. It's the world's most advanced human innovation that we've ever seen. It's an evolutionary innovation that is verging on quantum tunneling. And that wasn't something I made up. It comes from this book. Symbiosis is a source of evolutionary innovation by Lynn Margulis. We need to go to this symbiocene. And that comes from a book from Glenn Albrecht, Earth Emotions. And that symbiosis comes from Lynn Margulis, Carl Sagan's first wife. And she wrote this book, The Symbiotic Planet and the Microcosmos, and about 20 other ones where she talked about that phenomenon. Now I'm going to put it in a perspective of quantum and AI from the father of string theory, and Paul might know him.
Because, like I said, it's trial and error. Almost all chemistry and biology is done by trial and error.
Mostly error.
How was penicillin discovered? We discovered new penicillin the same way, by accident. So we're not talking about not by accident, but systematically creating fertilizer, creating new drugs to therapy. Because that's how Mother Nature does it. Mother Nature does not do it by petri dish. Mother Nature does it quantum mechanically.
So let me get back to your earlier comment that Mother Nature is a quantum computer. Did you say that?
And that's yeah. You go outside, you see photosynthesis in place, you see energy being converted into chemicals, you see life, you see all sorts of chemical processes happening, none of which can be duplicated by an ordinary computer. That's where quantum computers
And all of that is happening like
Plants, bees, species, fungi, they're quantum mechanical. We are also species. We're also from nature. We're also from this earth, and we are also quantum mechanical. We do every second of the day, every moment, quantum mechanical processes at the speed of light. And I'm going to give you an example of a few of them. So a brain, every single second fires 86 billion neurons at the speed of 268 miles per hour. And that is faster than a Formula One race car. That's why I put it in here twice. This is the mitochondria. As an infant is coming down the birthing canal, that infant will have 70 trillion human cells that have no ability to create energy. So nature plans 200 mitochondria in every one of those 70 trillion cells, and that is 14 quadrillion bacteria in our body. I want you to know that inside of every cell lives 200 mitochondria to liberate the light energy out of food so a cell can be animated. But we actually have 14 quadrillion bacteria born into this being that hasn't even taken its first breath yet. And that is about 14 quadrillion bacteria. So packed in every single cell, it is so full that if we were to draw a human cell correctly, they wouldn't see anything but the mitochondria. I've been talking about cells. If it is if it is a nerve there are 200 or 2,000 mitochondria packed into every cell of the body. It's unfathomable how quantum mechanical we are, how we live life. Now, I talked about development, but I'm going to skip these two slides. Have developed The definition of regenerative means to create the conditions that are conducive for life to thrive and flourish amid ever-changing life conditions. Everything in our earth can be done regeneratively. Regenerative design, economics, governance, models, medicine, farming, and it belongs to the endless re-imperatives. So I don't know if you've ever heard of those, but we've heard quite a few here today. And there are literally this symbiotic earth terminology that has a phenomenon of the endless re-imperatives that have everything to do with how we live life on earth. So regenerative development is the big question, and I've been telling you about it. But what is that? Well, it's an ecological economy. And in our world, it's a 280 plus trillion-dollar economy today. It's bigger than the regular development economy, and it's a lot bigger than sustainable development economy. But it means living design, regenerative conditions, regenerative frameworks, going beyond circular economy, cradle to cradle, leads, breed, DNGB, and all the other certificates out there. Better materials, net positive emissions, net positive on the earth, leaving it better than you found it. And these figures come from 17 different sources, from McKinsey clear down to Deloitte and the United Nations and the OECD. And they're conservative figures today. They've actually erred at least 100 trillion on the low side from where it's actually going. So then the big question is, well, how much money is there for regenerative development today? Because Marc, you normally talk about regenerative agriculture and farming. Anybody think it's more or it's less? It's a lot more. 150 US trillion dollars today. We're going off to Davos to talk about the Global Regenerative Development Alliance. We're going there to talk about the built and lived environment, talk about regeneration. And it's the removal of all food products as commodities. If you cheapen life, or if you trade life as a basic resource, you are basically cheating yourself. You're cheapening life when you do that. I'm out of time. I was going to bring up Paul and Pam to talk, but I'm hearing we're out of time, and I will tell you more and be glad to give you the book to tell you how you're going to come to that Regenaissance. Thank you.